Hello and welcome live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Gautam Roy, and coming up with the next hour, Prime Minister Narendra Modi says India has boosted its processed food exports by 150% in the last 9 years. Inaugurates World Food India 2023 in Delhi. Israel's military says it has surrounded Gaza city, calls it a war of self-defense. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken visits Tel Aviv to push for pauses in the war. India and Italy sign a mobility and migration partnership pact following External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar's talks with his Italian counterpart in Rome. And Bhutan's king is in Guwahati at the start of his 8-day visit to India. He'll also travel to Delhi to meet top leaders and to Maharashtra. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated the second edition of the mega food event World Food India 2023 at Bharat Mandapam in New Delhi today. He said India has grown its processed food exports by 150% over the last 9 years. And he said a lot more about the role of small farmers as well as women as far as India's food processing revolution is concerned. Here's more.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated the second edition of mega food event World Food India 2023 in New Delhi on Friday. Prime Minister disbursed seed capital assistance for over 1 lakh self-help groups members. This support will help the group gain better price in the market through improved packaging and quality manufacturing. The aid provided by government will benefit the women entrepreneurs the most.
भारत की महिलाओं में फूड प्रोसेसिंग इंडस्ट्री को लीड करने की स्वाभाविक क्षमता है। इसके लिए हर स्तर पर महिलाओं को कुटीर उद्योगों और सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप्स को प्रमोट किया जा रहा है। आज इस कार्यक्रम में भी 1 लाख से ज्यादा महिलाओं को, जो विमेन सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप चलाती हैं, 1 लाख से ज्यादा महिलाओं को करोड़ों रुपयों की सीड कैपिटल दी गई और मैंने टेक्नोलॉजी के लिए अभी यहां से उसको ऑलरेडी उनके खाते में जमा कर दिया।
Addressing the event, PM Modi said that the fusion of technology and taste will pave the way for the economy of the future. In the last 9 years, Prime Minister informed that the sector has attracted foreign direct investment of more than rupees 50,000 crores as a result of the government's pro-industry and pro-farmer policies.
पिछले 9 वर्षों में हमारे कृषि निर्यात में प्रोसेस्ड फूड का हिस्सा 13 से बढ़कर 23% हो गया है। 13 to 23। 9 सालों में प्रोसेस्ड फूड के एक्सपोर्ट में करीब करीब 150% की वृद्धि हुई है। आज हम $50,000 मिलियन से ज्यादा का एग्रो एक्सपोर्ट करके ग्लोबली 7वें नंबर पर आ गए हैं।
India's food variety and food diversity has been a major global attraction. The food processing industry is a key driver of India's agricultural landscape, adding value, reducing food waste, and creating a vibrant market for farm produce. The event also aims to showcase India as food basket of the world and celebrate 2023 as the International Year of Millets. It will also feature a reverse buyer-seller meet with over 1,200 overseas buyers from more than 80 countries.
Now, at the World Food India Conclave in the national capital, the kitchen of the King's Pavilion is trying to showcase the delicacies of the royal families of India, cooked by royal chefs. Here's a report by DD India's Dibyendu Mondal.
By Sarkar Sahib Raghavendra Pratap, who himself loves to cook, is what I'm told. From your kitchen, sir, what are the delicacies that you're offering here?
We are serving one delicacy called khelra. So It's all dried vegetables mixed together and then cooked in local Jodhpuri spices. Then we have chakki ki sabji, which is chakki is made out of wheat flour, and then it is cooked with gravies, different kind of gravies.
In Himachal, the cuisine, it is called dham, and it is cooked by botis, which are Brahmins, and they cook the meal and they even serve it. There is madra, there is palda, there is meethe chawal. So these are the main khatta. These are the main dishes which are being served over here. It's a predominantly vegetarian meal.
Kitchen cultures of royals are very important, and that's why I call it kitchen of the kings. So it's their royal kitchen food. You know, it's not regional. So now we have about 15 great chefs who from various parts of India who are part of the project, and we are really hopeful that we'll either start doing road shows or maybe open an experiential center, because for us the most important thing is to keep the lost recipes alive.
What a mouth-watering offering. Now, let's talk about this global event related to food and food security and diversification, sustainability that India is happening in the national capital. We're joined by Siddhi. Our guest for the evening is Siddhi Karnani, co-founder and director of the Foods. Good evening to you, Siddhi, and welcome to DD India. Just tell us, in terms of how this show has been conceived, it's a global event, it's the second edition inaugurated by Prime Minister Modi. What sort of a message does it send out to the world about India's existing prowess and the potential that it has to become the food basket of the world?
I think first of all, I would say more than an event, it is like a food festival where the foods from across the India and I would say across the world is being celebrated here. The kind of participation we are seeing from international countries, other countries here, and the domestic companies, including the larger ones and the young startups, it's tremendous. So it gives a message out to the entire world that India is the largest, like the leader in food producer, and would become the largest exporter in the world.
And the PM gave data to substantiate that as well. He said things like how India's share in food exports of processed food has gone from 13 to 23%, that over the last 9 years, the increase in processed food export has been 150%. What else do you think stands out as far as India's food processing journey is concerned in these years and the years to come?
I think the major changes that have happened in the last few years is development of a lot of small-scale companies or small-scale processors. The kind of schemes which our central government is coming up with in terms of providing easy access of capital to the people, or in terms of providing subsidies or just technical know-how. Now you would see, like earlier when we used to talk about food processing, we would think of very large, big plants and a lot of capital investment, and not everybody can do it. But now in today's time, what we are seeing is across like small cities, villages, the farmer groups are women, SHGs, they are setting up their own processing units, which will strengthen the Indian food processing to a huge extent.
And the perception has been conventionally that processed food in India is mostly about achar, murabba, papad and all that. Hasn't that changed quite a lot dramatically as well? Because now we're catering not just to the Indian diaspora in more than 192 countries in the world, more than 200 countries in the world in fact, but to global food aficionados, to global gourmands.
I completely agree with you. So what has happened is, earlier the small scale industries were only these pickles and achars, and that's what India used to be known for. And when you would go to Europe or you would go to US, Indian processed foods would be available only in Indian stores. But now more and more of these foreign technologies, the Indian startups or the Indian companies are adopting that, and we are developing food products which are very highly using sophisticated machines, innovative technologies, which is catering to the global demands.
And the PM mentioned the contribution of 3 pillars, he termed them. He termed them as farmers, small industries and women. You mentioned small industries, but women are really the true backbone, it seems, of the Indian food processing industry. And that is something that perhaps is being worked upon further to strengthen it.
Right, so if you would see in the agriculture sector across India, it is the women who work more in the fields. But when it comes to in terms of going and selling the produce, collecting the money or getting into little bit sophisticated processing, the men take the lead. But now with the help of all these government schemes, the women are coming to the forefront and they are much more dedicated, sincere to what they are doing, more committed to the work, and that is bringing about the revolution in the Indian food processing.
The other thing is about sustainability in agriculture, and one major thing that India has done is the push for millets, the International Year of Millets. That's a major initiative that India has taken and the world has accepted it. What sort of progress has that made so far in your assessment, and do you feel that it is really taking on the kind of dimension that will help the world, not just where food security goals are concerned, but even sustainability? Like, for that matter, people are saying now that we're having some trouble with the air in NCR. It's being said that perhaps farmers could be encouraged to go for millets instead of paddy.
Right, so I would say when I recently went to Europe and when we travel abroad, so the kind of awareness that I have seen about millets across these foreign countries is huge. So when we used to go earlier for trade fairs and these kind of meetings and events, people would not really talk about millet. So we have a millet called buckwheat and these kind of products in Northeast also, where people, so in the foreign countries, people would not really be much aware of it. But as India is doing the millet year this year, I think this is not just about India. The entire world is now celebrating millet. The impact of this is so huge. So this will really help the farmers to get more markets, and then the sustainability would automatically come in.
And it will be more remunerative as well?
Yes, it will be.
Okay. So what more do you think can be done or should be done to ensure that India does indeed become the food basket of the world, and that too sustainably?
So we have to focus more and more on now export promotion. So we are focusing quite a lot on developing of the food processing industries, hand-holding these small farmers and these women SHGs. But now the next step would be to train them into making the export standard qualities. Because when you want to export to these larger countries, there are a lot of regulations and policies which are in place. So that's the next leg of growth, where the small scale industries would directly start to export instead of going through the merchant exporters. That would bring about the export change in India.
And these would not just be agro products, but associated farming related products as well, including animal husbandry, dairying and everything.
Yes, of course. So there is a lot of potential in and around the entire agri and allied segment. So we have a lot of innovative products also coming from the animal husbandry or the dairy sector, like goat milk, cow milk, these kind of different kind of products. Too. Yes. So there is a lot of demand. Now the only need is to make the export push for these kind of products.
Okay, wonderful. Well, let's hope that also happens through events such as this. I guess this is completely geared towards ensuring that we export more and more processed food as well, apart from food in general. Thanks a lot for joining us and talking about it this evening. Thank you. All right, now still to come on DD India News Hour. Israel's military says it has completely surrounded Gaza City as US Secretary of State Antony Blinken visits Tel Aviv to push for pauses in the war. He's saying it's important how Israel is seen fighting this war. India and Italy sign a mobility and migration partnership pact following External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar's talks with his Italian counterpart in Rome. And India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman calls on Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe during her Colombo visit.
A platform for the developing world, amplifying the voice of the global south with a focus on the growing economies, resolving the conflicts, showcasing the culture, tradition, heritage and diversity. Watch Voice of the Global South at these times on DD India.
Wherever news breaks, whatever it takes.
Connecting corners, cutting across continents.
Stories that matter from across the globe.
Accurate, authentic journalism that serves you right. From politics to glamour, from sports to world affairs, with a fusion of aesthetics and substance. Introducing news in a new avatar. Experience the world through a new lens. Stay tuned to DD India for an exciting journey beyond borders.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, as the Israel-Hamas conflict is in its 28th day, United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in Israel to push for humanitarian pauses in the Gaza war. Antony Blinken met Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the war cabinet at the headquarters of Israel's defense ministry in Tel Aviv. Blinken also met Israel's President Isaac Herzog. The White House has dismissed calls from Arab and several other nations for a full ceasefire, saying that any pauses in the war should be temporary and localized. And in the ongoing conflict, Israel's military has claimed another Hamas commander has been killed overnight during operations. Mustafa Dalul was responsible for combat against IDF forces and also held key positions in Hamas's Gaza City brigade. Israel's military announced that its forces have surrounded Gaza's main city while rejecting international calls for a ceasefire. Israeli military spokesperson also said Hamas steals fuel from Gaza hospitals for terror use.
Today, we have revealed a recording of an official in the Gaza health system speaking to our forces and describing how Hamas is retaining fuel tanks at Shifa Hospital, making an explicit use of it for terror and stealing them from the hospital. While Hamas is claiming the fuel in hospitals is running out, they are stealing it from the sick and the patients for terror aims. We will continue to expose to the world the acts of Hamas and how they are clinically using the population as a human shield.
And joining us live from Tel Aviv is DD India's Sarah Coates. Evening to you, Sarah. Has the U.S. Secretary of State made any headway in his efforts as they've been reported to secure a pause or localized pauses in the fighting to save lives, provide aid and secure release of hostages? What has Israel's response been to his urgings?
Hello, good evening. Well, look, there's no sign of any of that on the ground at this hour. What we can tell you is that he did meet with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu behind closed doors, so there wasn't much information filtering out of that meeting that happened here in Tel Aviv just a few hours ago. Now, after that, he met with the President, Isaac Herzog, and after this, a couple of statements were made. They certainly did speak out about protecting civilians inside Gaza. Herzog says that this is what Israel has been doing by giving these residents notifications to move from the north to the south and also dropping leaflets. But look, with regards to your question, there's been no signs yet of an easing of this conflict in the Gaza Strip. We know that there is still a heavy bombardment campaign ongoing. But look, one more crucial thing we need to talk about is not here in Tel Aviv, but it's further north on the border with Lebanon. In just a few minutes' time, the head of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, is set to give a speech that many believe could be the tipping point in this war and could really shape it going forward.
Okay, and the IDF has even accused the Hamas of using fuel meant for hospital generators and ambulances to wage war or for terror. Now, it's surrounded Gaza City in its bid to corner and obliterate the Hamas as well. So how do you see this war progressing with these calls for temporary ceasefires as well?
Well, look, Israel says there will be no ceasefire until Hamas is completely eliminated. That is also backed by the United States. Intense fighting is ongoing, hand-to-hand combat happening right now in the Gaza Strip as Israeli troops push further and deeper into the coastal enclave. But look, it's come with a lot of losses at this hour. There have been reportedly 23 Israeli soldiers that have been killed simply due to the fact this nature of this conflict. As I said, hand to hand, they are coming up against things like missiles, grenades, and also Hamas militants coming out of holes in the ground. So it's certainly a very tough situation for troops on the ground, and also a tough situation for these people down in the Gaza Strip who desperately need more aid and have been moved from the north to the south.
Well, Sarah Coates, let's hope the situation improves, although the outlook doesn't really seem very positive at the moment. Thanks a lot for joining us for the time being. And earlier, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, in a statement, said that Israeli forces have been pushing further into Gaza City in their assault against Hamas in the north of the Gaza Strip, while Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesperson Lior Hayat said that this is a war of self-defense after being attacked brutally.
This is a war of self-defense after being attacked brutally. And our goal in this war is to eliminate Hamas control and Hamas terrorism from the Gaza Strip. It's a matter of survival, because if we won't do that, Hamas will continue with other massacres, one after the other. This is not just me saying that. Hamas leadership is saying just that. They plan another October 7 massacre and another one after that and another one after that.
And in the middle of all this, hundreds of foreign passport holders and dozens of other seriously wounded Palestinians are desperate to escape from Gaza. About 100 British nationals are on the list of people approved to leave Gaza on Friday. The family of Scotland's First Minister, Hamza Yusuf, has been allowed out.
Their hopes are alive, but they don't really know when will they actually cross the border. Hundreds of foreign passport holders and dozens of other seriously wounded Palestinians are desperate to escape Israel's bombardment of Gaza. Crowds and cars are waiting near Gaza's Rafah crossing, which is expected to open for the third day. Restless people waiting for the Hamas authorities to call their names over the scratchy loudspeaker. Each name represented another individual with a chance to escape the punishing war. The crossing opened earlier for limited evacuations. It aims to facilitate the departure of more foreigners seeking to leave Gaza. According to border officials, dozens of critically injured Palestinians and more than 700 foreign citizens left for Egypt via Rafah.
So we finally got the chance to almost leave Gaza. This is my 5th attempt to leave. We evacuated our house about 19 days ago.
Gaza evacuees crossing into Egypt fear for those left behind. One of the victims among the evacuees recounts her terrifying experience and says that the situation is beyond difficult.
The situation in Gaza is really difficult. It is very bad. I hope everyone continues to publish about this issue because it's still ongoing. The bombardment is everywhere, in the south, in the north, in Gaza, wherever you go. The situation is difficult and the bombardment is intense.
While more aid trucks are waiting to cross through Rafah border, how soon they will be able to reach the people remains to be seen as Israel-Hamas war rages on.
And India's External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, is in Italy, where he has held comprehensive and productive meeting with his Italian counterpart, Antonio Tajani. The two leaders conversed about deepening strategic partnership between India and Italy and also agreed that potential in agri-tech, innovation, space, defense and the digital domain should be explored further. Following the meeting, both the countries signed a mobility and migration partnership agreement to enable seamless movement of workers, students and professionals. And they also inked a cultural exchange program.
I'm very pleased, like you, that we have the opportunity to sign two very important agreements, one on mobility and migration, and the other one on cultural exchanges.
And delivering a joint statement after the talks with Italian Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation in Rome, Dr. Jaishankar said that Italy has supported all major global initiatives, including International Solar Alliance, India, Middle East, European Economic Corridor and Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure.
Italy is one country which has supported all the major international initiatives of India in recent years. This includes the International Solar Alliance, the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, the Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative, and most recently, the India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor and the Global Biofuels Alliance. So this shows today how convergent, how similar our view is towards global challenges.
And India's Foreign Minister also had a conversation with the Italian Minister of Enterprise, Adolfo Urso. The leaders exchanged experiences of Made in Italy and Made in India. Dr. Jaishankar expressed confidence that their discussions will expand the scope of economic partnership between the two countries. India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman called on Sri Lanka's President Ranil Wickremesinghe on Thursday during a three-day visit to the island nation. During the meeting, she highlighted that the vision document on economic partnership adopted during his visit to India in July 2023 will further strengthen the countries' maritime, air, digital, energy and people-to-people connectivities. Wickremesinghe also emphasized on Sri Lanka's vision to build a new market economy with focus on tourism, sustainability, agriculture modernization and digitization, and welcomed India's collaboration in these areas. India's Information and Broadcasting Minister Anurag Singh Thakur has appointed the nodal officer in the Ministry and Film Certification Office in Mumbai and Regional Office for the takedown of pirated content. The ANV Minister has also imposed a fine on those involved in piracy of content.
Today we have appointed the nodal officers in the ministry as well as in the CBFC Mumbai office and the regional offices where the films are hub and where the content is created. If you look at the piracy issue, now they could be fined from 3 lakh rupees to 5% of the gross audited, the value of the production. At the same time, they could be jailed for 3 years if they are involved in the piracy.
And still to come on DD India News Hour, a special discussion with members of an international delegation of young Buddhist scholars who've been brought to India to visit key Buddhist sites. And Bhutan King is in Guwahati at the start of his 8-day visit to India, where he'll also travel to Delhi to meet top leaders and then to Maharashtra. And Russia hits critical infrastructure in western and southern Ukraine with a swarm of drones.
Swagato to West Bengal, India's cultural epicenter. West Bengal invites you to share its richness, to be united as one family with one shared vision of building a better tomorrow.
In a world that never stops, where information shapes our reality, one app stands out, helps you stay ahead of time. Introducing the DD India app, your gateway to a world of news right at your fingertips.
Your most trusted source of news goes global, goes digital. Explore a world of options, top stories, live updates, in-depth analysis, and more. Stay informed wherever you are. Real-time alerts keep you ahead of the curve always. The DD India app, connecting you to the world, one story at a time. Download now and explore the world of knowledge, insights, and authentic information.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, 23 young Buddhist scholars from 11 different countries have come together under a cultural and educational program, Buddha Bhumi Vandan Yatra, that was organized by the Indian Council for Cultural Relations, that's the ICCR. The program aims to provide young scholars a deeper understanding of India's Buddhist heritage. It enables participants to visit key Buddhist sites, engage with experts, and learn about the rich history and culture of Buddhism in India. Buddha Bhumi Vandan Yatra, which started on the 25th of last month, concluded on the 2nd of November, which is yesterday, at the Ajanta Caves, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The scholars who travelled across India belong to different countries, including Sri Lanka, Taiwan, Malaysia, Laos, Cambodia, Japan, Bhutan, South Korea, Nepal, Thailand, as well as Vietnam. And during this period, the scholars visited a number of sites, including Nalanda Monuments and the Nalanda University, Sarnath's Central Institute of Higher Tibetan Studies, Chaukhambi Stupa, Sarnath Museum, Mulganda Kuti and Dhamik Stupa, Kashi Vishwanath Dham, and witnessed the Mahaganga Aarti as well. The final day of the Buddha Bhumi Vandan Yatra concluded with a media interaction which was chaired by ICCR Chief Vinay Sahasrabuddhe. And we have the privilege of having two of these international delegates with us right here in our studio now. We have Ong Yi Hong, he's a Youth Buddhist Association member and a delegate from Malaysia, and Kampu Wong Sulia Wongcha is with us. He's from the Committee for Sangha Foreign Affairs in Laos. Welcome to both of you. First, if I could ask you, Lee, in terms of well, what's the experience been like? I believe you've been in India for the last 10 days, traveling to all these sites which you must have read about, but I'm sure being there, witnessing it yourself must have been quite an experience.
Yes, seriously, it's a wonderful experience because being the first time in India, we read about India in my history textbooks. We learned about the civilization of Harappan, we learned about Ganges River, we learned about Indus River and all this, but being here presently and got to visit the places where Buddha, our teacher, Buddha, how he birthed and how he started his sermon for the Dharma and how he reached Nirvana. This is really another level. It's beyond my imagination. Yeah.
And Kampu Wong, was there something that was a complete revelation to you, which despite being a scholar yourself, a student of Buddhism, you did not know about in that much detail, or it wasn't really presented to you in the manner that you had previously come across?
Well, so the first time, I thought, just saw the a TV like this, but I didn't believe it. So the first time I saw it, I felt like, wow, really incredible, everything. So I always think this is my first trip, but it's very wonderful to visit many places. Thank you.
Great, great. And Ong, what do you make of this sort of program that the Indian Council for Cultural Relations is running in terms of how it not just builds relations between countries and between people of the same faith, but an overall enrichment of the understanding of this particular religion, this faith, and in general spiritualism?
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful platform, especially to unite people from different countries, especially Buddhist community. We have people that practicing Theravada, Mahayana, and also Vajrayana from Tibet and Bhutan. So it's a wonderful experience when we got to interact with them. not just visiting the places, but also in the very daily manners that we greet them when we stay in the hotel, Pante, more good morning, and all those is wonderful interaction. I think that's what we should encourage more.
And what was it traveling through India to all these places? You even went to Varanasi and witnessed the Ganga Aarti, which is which is really a blessing to be able to witness that. You are especially blessed if you get to see it.
Yes, when we got to visit Ganga's rivers, we know it's a mother for not just, I think, not just in terms of...
For an entire civilization.
Yeah, for the entire civilization, also historically, socially, how it impacts to the life of Indian societies. So I think it's really a wonderful and it's really a blessed journey that we got to sit on the boat itself, travel from one ghat to another, and come back with this beautiful sunset. Seriously amazing.
And what do you think programs such as this do for the understanding of different cultures, apart from the fact that it will promote better understanding of Buddha's teachings and better understanding of India as well as the birthplace of Buddhism?
Yeah, definitely it helps because we are not just getting to know it from the books or from the videos. We got to be at the place, trying to get through it with the real experience in the places and try to feel the atmosphere there. I think that comes in not just external, but more to the inner thoughts of, I think the thought process happen. And after that, we be inspired and go back to carry this message to our country and definitely encourage more people to come here and have that experience.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us and talking about your experience. And we hope that you spread this message back home as well, that you've got to come to India to see what all is there, not just where Buddhism is concerned, but so much more. Thank you again for coming to our studio. Well, that's all for the moment as far as this chat is concerned. Let's get you more updates. And Bhutan's King Jigme Khesar Namgyal Wangchuk has arrived in India's Guwahati today for his official week-long visit to this country. This is the first trip by any monarch of the neighbouring country to the northeastern state of Assam. The leader was received by Assam's chief minister at the airport. The Bhutan King will be in New Delhi on Sunday for the next leg of his India trip. He's further scheduled to meet the Indian Prime Minister as well as External Affairs Minister and other senior government officials in New Delhi. The two nations look forward to the strengthening of bilateral relations between them. The Bhutanese king is also slated to travel to the western Indian state of Maharashtra during his week-long or 8-day stay in India. Now, at the inaugural function of the national-level art exhibition in New Delhi, India's President Draupadi Murmu said that society and the government should work together to protect biodiversity. The President also appreciated the government's efforts for the welfare of tribals.
पूरे देश में जनजातीय समुदाय और जनजातीय क्षेत्रों के समग्र और समुचित विकास के लिए प्रधानमंत्री वनबंधु कल्याण योजना कार्यान्वित है, जिसमें शिक्षा के साथ साथ आजीविका और क्षमता निर्माण पर भी ध्यान दिया गया है। पिछले 10 वर्षों में जनजातीय कार्य मंत्रालय का बजट लगभग 3 गुना तक बढ़ा दिया गया है। ये जनजातीय समाज और उनके विकास के प्रति सरकार की प्रतिबद्धता को दर्शाता है। भारत की परंपरागत एवं जनजातीय ज्ञान को संरक्षित रखने के लिए सरकार ने CSIR के साथ मिलकर ट्रेडिशनल नॉलेज डिजिटल लाइब्रेरी का निर्माण भी किया है।
The Biden administration has announced a new range of sanctions on more than 100 entities against Russia over the war in Ukraine. These latest restrictions target Russia's future energy capabilities, sanctions evasion, a suicide drone and various other military equipment, among others. It also cracks down on sanctions evasion in the United Arab Emirates, Turkey and China. 7 Russia-based banks and dozens of industrial firms have also been hit with the sanctions. In response, Russia has dismissed the new US sanctions, saying that the United States would never be able to defeat Moscow. The Kremlin also said that Russia has learned to adapt to Western sanctions imposed against it. DD India's Dasha Chernashova sent us this report from Moscow.
Moscow has dismissed new U.S. sanctions against Russia. Russian Foreign Ministry's spokeswoman Maria Zakharova said the new sanctions were a continuation of the policy of inflicting what the U.S. often calls a strategic defeat on Russia. Zakharova said Washington will have to wait in vain forever before that happens. Russia's ambassador to the United States, Anatoly Antonov, said the sanctions were no surprise, and it was obvious that the U.S. sanctions pressure would only continue to intensify. He said Russia was facing, quote, a frontal attack on the country, from politics and economics to human rights issues. Antonov also insists that this pressure attempts to undermine the internal unity in Russia, especially as the country is getting closer to the presidential election next year. Leonid Mikhilson, the head of Russia's natural gas producer Novatek, told a news conference in the Uzbek city of Samarkand that the new U.S. sanctions were a badge of our professionalism, as he described it. Russia's Bauman State Technical University also described the sanctions as a recognition of its potential. Earlier this week, the Russian president said that the Russian economy was developing according to the forecast. Dasha Cherneshova, reporting in Moscow for DD India.
And Russia launched a massive drone attack on Friday targeting critical infrastructure in the west and south of Ukraine. The drone attacks destroyed private houses and commercial buildings in Ukraine's second largest city, Kharkiv. Ukraine's Air Force claimed it shot down 24 Shahed drones out of 40 launched by the Russian side. On the recent attacks, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Russia will try to cause more harm as winter approaches. He added that Ukraine will fight back. Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February last year. And the Ukrainian military conducted river crossing drills in Chernihiv region bordering both Belarus and Russia. The servicemen taking part in the drills said that the most dangerous thing they have encountered during their work have been enemy drones. North Korea said it's been shutting down several embassies abroad in an effort to rearrange its diplomatic capability efficiently. The country faces extensive sanctions over its nuclear and missile programs. Pyongyang is poised to shut down a dozen diplomatic missions, including the ones in Spain, Hong Kong and various countries in Africa. This would mean the closure of nearly 25% of its missions worldwide. And still to come on DD India News are, US and China are reported to be preparing for a rare meet next week related to nuclear arms control. And in the Cricket World Cup, Netherlands go from 72 for 1 to 179 all out in a crucial match against Afghanistan in Lucknow.
Welcome to Chandigarh.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. Former FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried has been found guilty by a New York jury. This is on all 7 counts of fraud, embezzlement and criminal conspiracy at the end of a month-long trial. Bankman-Fried was arrested last year after his firm FTX went bankrupt. Some of his closest associates testified that he was the key to all decisions taken that saw $8 billion vanish from his trading platform. Fried's defense lawyers, who objected to several rulings, are expected to appeal against this verdict. United States and China are reportedly preparing to discuss nuclear arms control at a rare meeting next week. This would be the first time that the two superpowers will sit down for talks since the Obama administration ended almost 7 years ago. DD India's Andrew Wood has sent us this report from Hong Kong.
China has been reluctant to talk about arms control because it says it has so few nuclear warheads and bombs and so on compared to America and compared to Russia. Now, thanks to arms control talks, the number of nuclear warheads and bombs, etc., has fallen dramatically over the past 30 years. At the time of the collapse of the Soviet Union, I think Russia had around about 30,000 nuclear warheads and other bombs, and America had a similar number too. Now, depending on how you count them, both America and Russia are down to about 6,000 each, some of them working, some of them deployed, some of them in storage. In contrast, China is believed only to have 500 nuclear weapons, although the Pentagon reckons that number is going to double very rapidly by the end of the decade. So it's good, I think, for America to feel, or Americans are probably going to be happy that China is at least discussing the issue. I don't think it's going to lead to formal talks anytime soon. But, for example, you've got the climate envoys of China and America meeting this weekend. President John Kerry, of course, being the American one, to talk about climate change. A week or two ago, President Xi Jinping said trying to find common ground on climate change and global leadership was one of the few bright spots in the relationship between America and China. We're also seeing talks this week. China signed up to a declaration in the UK, along with America and the European Union, the Bletchley Declaration, on trying to put, well, safety first when deploying and developing artificial intelligence. And at the moment, there are dozens of representatives of the US agricultural industry in Beijing talking to their counterparts in China. So this is a chance perhaps for Americans to get some benefit from this improvement in relations.
And now let's take a look at some other updates that are coming in from around the world. Well, at least 3 people have died and several are missing as heavy rains and overflowing rivers lash central Italy due to storm Karan. The storm has already caused heavy flooding and damage in Northern Ireland, parts of Britain, Belgium as well as France. Spanish Coast Guard rescued 114 migrants off the Canary Islands on Thursday night. This brings the total number of migrants who have reached Canary Islands to 30,705, nearing a full-year record of 2006. US officials are visiting South Africa this week to meet African trade ministers. They will also face calls to reauthorize the African Growth and Opportunity Act, which is due to expire in September 2025. AGOA grants exports from qualifying African countries duty-free access to United States. Iranian prison authorities have blocked jailed Nobel Peace Prize 2023 winner Narges Mohammadi's hospital care after she refused to wear a hijab. The prison warden announced that according to the orders of the higher authorities, sending her to the heart hospital without a headscarf was prohibited and a transfer was cancelled. According to the author's family, Mohammadi suffers from cardiac and lung health issues. And Dutch donors are sending millions of tulips to Ukrainian schools to help children heal from war scars. Children of a school in Irpin, a town near Kyiv that was severely damaged in fighting with Russian troops last year, planted the first 2,000 bulbs in front of their school. And it's time now to get you some sporting updates as well. AFI President Adil Sumariwala praised the facilities available in Goa for the National Games athletes. Speaking to DD India, he mentioned that a better timing could result in a large number of star athletes taking part in the National Games.
How happy are you with the way the National Games are being organized in Goa for the first time?
No, I think they've done a brilliant job. I think the facilities are excellent. The technical conduct is very, very good. The athletes have got very good facilities. The athletes are happy. If athletes are happy, then I'm happy and everybody is happy. So I think they've really gone out of their way to make sure that they provide everything to the athletes.
How do you look at the importance of the National Games if we look at the progress of Indian athletics?
But I think what people don't understand is what has gone behind this performance. It's 10 years, 11 years of hard work. The planning, the identifying of events, the bringing in of foreign coaches, getting foreign exposure, diet, nutrition, coaching camps, planning competitions. So all that has gone in the last 10 years, the largest grassroots level program in the world, and that has brought this result. Everything that we do within the ecosystem is important. So national game is important, but it's a very small step towards a bigger competition.
How do you look at that star athletes taking part in the National Games?
It's great that the star athletes are taking part, but one also needs to time the National Games correctly. Because actually we would have many more athletes, including Neeraj, who would have come and participated if this was earlier. Now that the World Championships are over, the Asian Games are over, the Asian Athletics are over, and they have to start preparing for the Olympic Games next year. That is why a lot of them have not come. But this would have been a far bigger success had they timed it correctly. And I'm sure that in the future, they will look at these things.
So the AFI president thinks that the athletes who are participating in the National Games for the first time must grab every opportunity that comes their way. With camera person Sumit Dhiman, this is Suchitra reporting for DD India from Goa.
Now let's talk about hockey, where India continued this unbeaten run with a comprehensive 5-0 win against Korea in its last league match on Thursday to stay on top of the table at the Jharkhand Women's Asian Champions Trophy, Ranchi 2023, dominating the opponents and setting up a rematch in the semi-final. In fact, the knockout games on Saturday will be a repeat of Thursday's fixtures, with China and Japan facing off yet again in the other semi-final, while Malaysia and Thailand will battle for the 5th spot. And that's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, and Instagram. We'll get you more news and updates as they come along. For the moment, thank you so much for joining me, Gautam Roy, as well as my team for the latest on DD India News Hour.